Today Stan Keys is here with us discussing his previous and current career. Welcome, Stan. How are you doing today?
Fine, thanks, Hillary. Pleasure to be here.
Perfect. So I just wanted to get a little bit on your previous job experience. How did you come to where you are today?
Well, it was a combination of my previous experiences that got me the job I'm in today. I began as a television news reporter, and I was in that career for 15 years. And then I ran for politics and worked my way from opposition member of parliament right through to the cabinet table with Paul Martin. So I was a cabinet minister responsible for, I was Minister of Revenue, I was Minister of Sport, I was Minister responsible for the Canadian Mint, I was Minister responsible for Canada Post. So the combination of the media experience and the political experience moved me into a job as an appointment as Consul General to Boston, which meant I represented Canada like an ambassador to the entire U.S. East Coast and all the trade that goes on between Canada and the U.S. And then when I left there, I came back to Canada and people approached me with all the experience I had to do my current job.
Oh, wow. So you've been all around there.
I've been around the horn.
Been around the horn, perfect. So, when you did end your career in politics, how did you know that this new job was the job for you? How did your interest in everything come into play, and how did you choose what you really wanted to do at the end of it all?
Well, with the experience that I garnered from the media and politics, and as Consul General for the position, actually the job came to me. So I was driving you, in fact, to university for your first day, as I recall, and I got a call from a friend of mine, Duncan Fulton, and I was on that call from the drive from Hamilton all the way to St. Catharines, as you recall. And they asked me if I'd like to be president of the Canadian Payday Loan Association. I said, what the heck is that? I didn't even understand what he was saying. And finally he spelled it out, and I said, well, let me research it. I came home. Many of my friends were telling me that, asking me why I would go to work for such an unscrupulous bunch of lenders and all that kind of thing. I got kind of worried. I mean, you know, I have a pretty clean reputation for many, many years.
Yes, for sure.
And then I researched and I learned that, in fact, it is an industry that's in demand. Their product is in demand, payday loans. And what's important is that people were being taken advantage of by unscrupulous lenders charging way too much money for the loan. So I said, well, there is a place here for someone to walk in and say, that's it, we're going to put rules in place. We're going to ask the government to regulate the industry. Industries don't like to be regulated, but in this case, they had to clean up their reputation, and the only way to do that was to become regulated. So I took the job, and people were saying I was crazy, I was going to damage my reputation, etc. But in fact,
you put the good of yourself into the company.
Well, I'd like to think that, but also to say that I've taken a group of companies that were doing the job properly. I've represented them to government. The government says, you're right, we got to have this product. People demand this product. They don't get it from a regulated industry. They're going to go out and get it from who knows where. So what we'll do is we'll regulate the product. So now we're regulated in 7 provinces across Canada, protecting the consumer while allowing for a competitive industry.
Perfect. So how long have you been working in this current field?
I started October 2006, so it's almost 7 years.
7 years, wow, that's a long time. So when you did begin this, I know you discussed it a little bit before, but I wanted to get a little bit, what was your biggest fear in starting this position?
Knowledge, acquiring knowledge quickly, because in order to meet with government officials, ministers, deputy ministers, as well as answer tough questions by the media about the product, I had to come up to speed very quickly. And thankfully, I was able to involve myself completely, absorb all the information I had to know, and then I was confident enough to get out in front of TV cameras, radio interviews, as well as going to ministers and saying, here's why we must regulate the product.
Perfect. So, what was your aha moment in this job? What made you realize that this was the job for you?
Helping consumers. Consumers were being taken advantage of. So the very first province that we regulated in, I achieved the legislation and regulations and put the cap on the fees against lenders. And I went, it works. I actually can accomplish something here. So that rolled out to 6 more provinces.
Wow. So therefore, leading into our next question, what are your 3 largest accomplishments that you've done in your career thus far? So overall of everything that you've
My
accomplished,
life.
your life.
My life accomplishments.
Yes.
First life accomplishment would have been to become a cabinet minister at the federal government level. As Minister, for example, of Sport, I managed to put in place additional funding so that the carded athletes could be funded to do that. Instead of working at Tim Hortons and trying to become an athlete, they could fully devote their time to being an athlete. So that was one of my accomplishments as a minister. So a minister of the Crown, I had a lot of opportunity to do a lot of good for a lot of people. Second greatest accomplishment was to be appointed Canada's representative to the United States, specifically Boston and all the East Coast United States. So you have a responsibility to represent your whole country, not just as a member of Parliament, which was a great accomplishment to win that first election back in 1988 and serve for your hometown in the highest court of the land, the House of Commons, for 16 years. Then be appointed to Consul General, as Consul General to Boston. That's sort of a combined, accomplishment that no one can ever forget. And my third greatest accomplishment has nothing to do with work and everything to do with Stan. And that accomplishment is that I married my high school sweetheart. We've been married for 38 years and we have a loving family. Probably my greatest accomplishment.
Okay, well, I try to gather my thoughts right now. That was very touching.
Are those tears I see?
No, those are not tears. It's just,
Yeah, a little emotion.
I'm allergic to something in here, right? So, during your current field right now, what do you feel as though, kind of more like, what do you love most about your job? Like, what do you feel gives you your most passion within your job and keeps you driving forward each day?
It's the challenge of the job. And it's the challenge of coming up against the general population that has an opinion of the product versus the users of the product. So the general population think that all payday lenders are scum, that they all charge unscrupulous rates, they have no understanding of the product, they have no understanding how much it costs to provide that product, they have all these misconceptions, and they have a voice when it comes to speaking about the product, however wrong it may be. But at the same time, there are the users of the product who, by a margin of 78%, say that, excuse me, they're thankful. They're thankful that the payday loan product is there because without us, they wouldn't be able to take that small sum, short-term loan that they need to get their car fixed quickly because they need their car for work, to get that bill paid to keep the hydro on, or to ensure that the telephones are still working. They need that little bit of money just to carry them till the next payday. It's a product that's in demand. It's not going to go away. And we've got to take great care not to regulate the individual who uses the product, but to regulate the product itself.
Perfect. And just going to your career path right now, if you could change anything about it, would you? Why or why not?
Would I change my career path? No. I've been blessed. To have had many assorted jobs when I was a teenager, from selling shoes to working a Canada Dry truck, right through to my first days as a media reporter in Barrie, Ontario, CKVR, the new VR they call it now, where I was a television news reporter. I shot film in those days, not video. I was an anchor for sports. I was reading news on the air. I was a reporter. All those things combined. I learned a lot. I carried that experience to CHTV, where I was a reporter there for 13 more years. Being a reporter, it's a great job because every day was different. Every day was a new experience. Every day you're meeting new people.
Exactly, like today.
Like today. So that was a lot of fun. And then, of course, that became a job in politics because of my experience and my name out there every day with the people. They said, well, we'll trust Stan to be our representative in Ottawa. And off to Ottawa I went, where I served 16 years. And then this job I'm presently in came to me after I came back from Boston as Consul General. This job came to me. I didn't really have a chance to take a breath. In retrospect, should I have said no to everything and waited 6 months to a year, and said, what do I really want to do? Instead, this job came to me. It was a challenge for me, and I love a challenge.
Guess that's where I get it from, right?
Yes. Come by it honestly.
What have you learned from your overall experience then? From every job that you've had, what do you feel that your overall experience has been, inconclusively?
Wisdom. Wisdom is the guardian of stuff. Combine that with research. Don't believe anything anybody tells you. Research it. The availability of the internet and all kinds of opportunities to get smart are there. So just use those opportunities. Get wise, get smart, know your stuff.
Thank you so very much, Dan, for joining me today. It was a great pleasure to get to know you inside and out, and hopefully someday we can reconnect again.
Absolutely. Hope to. Thank you.